as a Palestinian Christians, we called for BDS. I will explain to you the background and how did we reach to this stage, although we do not believe that this document is only calling for BDS as much as it tells more of the story of the Palestinian Christians and the way out, and how did we speak to our local community and to our brothers and sisters. Within the context of the suffering, we looked at past experiences like Kairos, South Africa. And this is a very similar exercise like in the South African, where churches in South Africa came out with a document, with an initiative to free themselves and free their people from apartheid system. This, as a Palestinian people, as Christians among the Palestinian people, we came out with the same result actually. And the word Kairos is the moment. So we are speaking about the present time. We are not going back to the history. We are speaking about the suffering of today of the Palestinian people, where in the introduction we introduce the many challenges we face on daily basis at the present time. And then we aimed at delivering a word to our local community at first, and then to our brothers and sisters of the other churches around the world, and then another very short messages to Jews, Muslims, Palestinians, and the international community, and to the Israelis too. And this we call a process. It's a beginning. The document itself is a beginning, and here we have some copies in Arabic and in English. And it contains 3 words. A word of faith, which I will not mention here and I will not discuss because this is not our issue. A word of hope, and this was a word for ourselves mainly. But the most important and the controversial issue was in our word of love, and we called it our word of love and resistance. In this word, we came up with an equation where Jesus Christ have taught us and asked us to love our brothers and sisters, to love our neighbor, and at the end they asked us to love our enemy too. So facing this teaching, we look at the Israelis, of course, back home as our enemy. And we see that our enemy is in a sin against God and against humanity by his occupation, by destruction, by the killings that's happening since 1948 until today. And in order to show our love, if you love someone, you would love him to be free of his sin. So this is where we connected love with resistance. We try to resist the sin and the evil in our enemy in order to free him from his sin and to be free. If he is free, we are free too. So this is the equation that we came out. To resist the occupation and resist the sin in the enemy, we of course could not choose a violent mean or any violent mean, because it's not in our faith, it's not in our religion. So we chose the non-violent means, and we called it the creative means. And here we encouraged and we supported and we believed in the results that BDS can make. And actually we went a little bit maybe further, and we said that a full system of sanctions should have been implemented on Israel a long time ago. Since its early days of occupation, this system of sanctions should have taken place, and it is very much overdue. This is where we call on our brothers and sisters abroad in the other churches to go for boycott. First personally as an individual, as a brother and sister, then convincing their churches and the churches to convince their governments. This is how we see it. This controversial issue made this document very famous. Like one Swedish journalist was discussing this with her father, who is my colleague at work. that if this document did not contain the call for BDS, it would have been a good document and everybody would have adopted it. But his daughter, who is a young journalist, said if this did not have BDS call, this would meant nothing for everybody. It would have been another document. The most important thing about this document is that it is a unified document. It was made by theologians, Palestinian Christians coming from different denominations who sat together, and now it is adopted by 2,000 Palestinian Christians, and the number is increasing because we are still collecting signatures. We want all Palestinian Christians to believe and to be behind this. Of course, it has another 1,700 supporters, international supporters, even Muslims and even Jews. Today, these controversial issues in this document are being discussed on a Jewish level too. Although the Jews and the Israelis at first did not really care about the document, and they thought that it will die very soon in 1 or 2 months like any other document. But now we heard some voices from outside Israel and Palestine, and we have been charged by naming us anti-Semitic with this document. But on the other hand, there has been some dialogue inside Israel-Palestine with rabbis and with intellectuals and academics from Hartman Institute, where we are discussing every bit of this document. So it was open for discussion, open for dialogue, open for understanding. And to my surprise, many controversial issues that we thought it was controversial to them, it was never discussed. For example, Jerusalem. Jerusalem was never the issue of disagreement in this document. Although we are asking for a shared Jerusalem and open for Jerusalem for everybody, this was not discussed. Even BDS, it was not taken seriously by the rabbis. They were looking at certain aspects of this document where we are talking about a blessing for the people who die on behalf of their nation, and they thought that we are blessing the suicide bombers, about our relation to history and roots in Palestine and Israel while not naming them. So very little things that we are discussing, and we are grateful that this dialogue is taking place. On the BDS, we have also issued a 2-page clarification because we were asked by many of our brothers and sister churches, what do you mean by this and what do you mean by that? Do you mean Israel or do you mean the settlements? No, actually our call for sanctions is targeted at Israel, because we looked at it as if you are living with a neighbor and the neighbor sends his son to your courtyard and he damages your garden. Then you cannot scold the son, you should go to the father. And this is where we ask for boycott to Israel, not to settlement goods or not to occupational things. This is our main call, and in our response, we of course remember the apartheid in South Africa. Of course, when you go out with such a document, you will have negative responses at first, and this happened. With Martin Luther King, it happened also the same. And now we are sticking into it. We are glad that we are here today with you and connecting with you. We are trying to connect and make awareness in our communities and in our churches and outside, because we believe that BDS is the way out. If we pressure the private sector in Israel, if we pressure the middle class in Israel, the change will come from inside Israel. Thank you.